Scott McNair, injury attorneys, we fight for the win.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Overruled podcast brought to you by the Scott McNair Law Firm. We have got a great show today for you. This is David McNair, your host. I'm without Brad today, but joined in our podcast studio by a guest that I'm really excited to talk to because it's such an incredible local family business and great story about where this business came from when it was opened back in 1996 to when it got started to today, and that is Adam Carey. Adam is the Chief Operating Officer of Reginelli's. Adam, welcome to the Overruled podcast.
Thank you so much.
All right, Adam, I want to get straight into it. Tell our viewers, I moved to New Orleans, I think, listeners, and viewers. Sometimes they listen to us on YouTube. I moved to New Orleans for law school back in 2008. I've always known Reginelli's because I lived in Lakeview first. And so I would go a lot to the Reginelli's in Lakeview, which was, it's still by
Harrison.
the Parlays on Harrison.
Yep.
And so I didn't know the history of it until getting prepared for the show, but I hope you could tell us a little bit about where Reginelli started and how it's come over the some odd 30 years, because it was opened in 1996, right?
That's right. So next year, would be our 30th anniversary, and it started in 96 with Daryl Reginelli and his partner, Bruce Earhart. They had been working together at an earlier concept of Daryl's, which was this eating gallery on Magazine, and at that time, I think really you only had, pizza in the city was maybe Cafe Roma, Fresco maybe have been, around that time, and like a few other places, but no one was doing sort of innovation or a step up for pizza that you now see so frequently.
Right.
And so when they got in, they got the idea together, and they had a property, Daryl had a property at 741 State Street, which is across the street now from where our Reginelli's is. And it was much smaller, maybe only, I would have to say like 1,200 square feet. Like it was crazy, including dining room and kitchen, like everything. And so from there...
Well, you got to start the concept small, right? You don't want to like...
Well, a small footprint's awesome. And even in a modern sense now, like when you're looking, when restaurants are looking, you really have to make use of every single square foot. Otherwise, it's inefficient.
Right.
So they started there, expanded out to Lakeview on Harrison, and then out in Elmwood, off of Citrus out there.
Yep.
And near all the Coke plants and everything. And then we had a location further down Magazine. And then, we expanded to Baton Rouge. And then we're Clearview, Kenner, Gretna. And now we're all over the metro area, including the North Shore in Mandeville, which is awesome that we're up there too.
Yeah, is there a Baton Rouge location? Did I make that up? Okay.
On Jefferson Avenue, there's Baton Rouge location, and that's been there for a long time. It's a real neighborhood favorite, and it's a little bit off of like that government strip, so it's cool. It's been there for a while. All the local businesses have been there for a while too, so they're part of that scene now, and it's nice. Yeah, Baton Rouge is a great market.
Yeah, I was blown away getting ready for the show. I did not understand, I knew 3 or 4 of the locations in the metro area. I had no idea y'all had 9 locations, which is impressive and incredible. Can you talk a little bit about, one of the things I saw on the company's website is the core values, the honesty, service, determination, and celebration. Can you talk a little bit about how those values have, since you started with the company, which was in 2003, right? First off, tell us how you started with the company, because we were talking about it a little bit before.
Yeah, so I would go to Tulane. I'd never been to Louisiana or Tulane. Didn't visit at all. Just like, hey, I'm going there. They gave me, I got a nice little scholarship. Go there,
from
graduate.
New York, right?
Yeah,
You're
well, I was
originally
born in New York, living in South Florida at this point.
Gotcha.
And it's like, boom, okay, that's where I'm going. Loved it, really enjoyed it. And all my friends were still staying around. So I was like living at the corner of State and Camp. Reginelli's the corner of State and Magazine. One of my roommates is a server there, and basically was like, "Well, you need a job." like I was after I'm graduating, I was like, I'm going to figure it out, make sure I really find the right path for my life.
Right.
And she's like, "Well, the path starts as a dishwasher, I guess." And so, here we are, years later, and it's a Cinderella story.
Right.
You just kept going, and luckily, when you talk about being at the right place at the right time, I think Reginelli's was growing, and I was perfectly suited to be in at the right time and then grow together. And that's rare. It's one of the reasons why I've really stayed and devoted my entire professional career, because it's just you rarely hear of someone that has a story that can tell the tale almost from the beginning. And I think there's something great about that. You know, it's like a sports franchise, things like that.
Yeah.
The player that's, you know, was there from the beginning. And I'm not the only person that's been around for Reginelli's for like 20 plus years.
Wow.
Most of our brand compliance officer, Lisa Millette, has been around for like, I think 25, 26.
Wow.
From the beginning. Our human resources manager, my wife, Joanna Carey, she also has been around longer than me, like 25 years. And then when you go down from there, we probably have maybe like 3-4 dozen people from the general manager, even to cooks, dishwashers that have been with us for close to 20 years. And when you talk about like the success of expansion and all that, and you look at the culture we build with the core values, that's what drives these people. You know, if you're going to stay working with us as, you know, even a dishwasher, you know, we have this great guy, Brian, at the Uptown location, and he's been around for probably close to 20. And what he wants is respect, you know, all those things, an honest environment like you're talking about, you know, and I think starting with honesty, that was the thing that sort of got people here. Daryl, Bruce, the rest of us, we were honest about our feelings. We're honest with what we wanted to do. We're honest with feedback. And the most important thing with the honesty that I always tell everyone that works with us, we're super honest with the guests, even when it's like makes us look like idiots.
Yes.
So if you call in and you're like, you know, I've been waiting for a long time for my delivery, where is it? You could get, you know, a lot of places would be like, it's on its way.
Yeah.
You know, we will look at it and be like, okay, it hasn't even gone in the oven yet. You're probably looking at 25 to 30 more minutes, which is not what you want to hear. And then you can work through it, but you have to be honest to even get to the point where you're having that interaction.
I love that, and I think it, you know, people will, I try to tell our team here all the time, is like, we're not perfect. Our clients and third parties and constituents of the law firm that we deal with don't expect us to be perfect, but they expect us to get it right eventually and be fair. And so in being honest with, like, when you screw up, right, it's you being vulnerable, and people will give you a shot because you're being honest with them, and they're like, okay, I'm dealing with somebody who's not just projecting at me. And look, maybe not everybody will still give you a fair shot, but on the main, in my opinion, like 90 to 95% of people will still give you a shot to make it right.
Oh,
right?
yeah. If it, you know, especially if someone hears you actually admit a mistake, and then, you know, when we talk about guest recovery sometimes, and I remember we were at a seminar at Commander's Palace, and they were talking about guest recovery, and it all came down to the first thing you do is basically tell the problem back to someone, to acknowledge that you actually understood what the deal was.
Yep.
So we train that too, and that's part of the honesty, like that you understand, you recognize. Now let's try to figure out what we're gonna do. Yeah,
I love that. And look, I mean, since they opened the restaurant in 1996, you've been with the company since 2003. To go to 9 locations, and in 2007, y'all were awarded Pizzeria of the Year by the Pizza Today magazine, right? That's pretty big deal.
That was a huge deal. That was a particularly emotionally, and to talk about celebration as a core value. You know, Daryl and Bruce brought out their families. So like Mama Reginelli was there, Coach Reginelli was there.
Yeah, the whole
crew. And they practiced for so long on this presentation they were going to do. And I remember at the end of it, they got this ovation because it was so real about what the challenges were, you know, and then coming, you know, out of Katrina.
Yeah.
There was a lot of emotions charged in general, and then, you know, as New Orleans and as a city, when people were recognized for things or had achievements, it was like everyone was like we got this, you know what I mean? So when they're up there and everyone's like, you had this moment where it's like, yeah, you know, everyone got fired up, and the response was awesome, and yeah, so they give out 2 awards there, and the one that we got is independent. You have to be, you know, below a certain amount of units, and it's particularly coveted because when you have, you know, a small unit, you know, organization, you're expected to have like excellent recipes, unique menus, like service patterns, everything like that. And so to be recognized in the industry, but also by your peers who are like, that's hard to do, especially under these circumstances. It was wonderful. Yeah.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask you before we moved on about the celebration aspect of y'all core value. One of the things we do here, and we probably started more like 9 or 10 months ago and really made a point of, is really educating the different supervisors on our team as well as the entire team of how important it is to celebrate every win, small or big.
Yeah.
Like, you turn a guest experience around, or for y'all guests, for us a client. A client's had a bad experience. Okay, that's an opportunity for us to make it right and own the mistakes we made or our part in it. They're always right. Right, we're in the service business just like y'all. However, like that's an opportunity to turn around, and if the team does, let's celebrate it. Let's message firm wide about it and acknowledge them, small and big. It can't just be the, hey, we hit our revenue goal for the year for the company, or hey, we opened a new location. Like the small things become the big things. I'm guessing you probably learned that on your journey from like starting at the where you were in 2003 or out of college to now being the chief operating officer of the company. But I'm assuming, is that really what y'all try to focus on as a part of that core value? Can you talk a little bit about the celebration aspect of the value of the organization?
Yeah, so celebration, it's easy to put it into terms of the restaurant experience. You come in, especially for pizza, birthdays, after a karate victory or, the soccer game, anything like that. So automatically, it's going to be associated with these celebratory events. But on the operations side and the cultural side, celebration really comes down to, like you said, not so much hitting your monetary goals, but also celebrating people's milestones as they're growing with us. And again, this was probably, why we have such, longevity amongst our employees. But if people get married, if people have babies, you're getting a Reginelli's onesie. Like, I'm serious. It's a thing. We have them made.
I think Miles wants one. Miles, you want a Reginelli's onesie?
I'll be having a kid soon.
Okay.
Miles, I got you, man. But yeah,
his wife will be excited.
Yeah.
Everything she wanted was their baby in a Reginelli's
Look at that right there.
onesie.
Marinara red, baby. but yeah, it's celebrating those sort of things as well. I think that culturally, makes it important. And, I try to go out of my way sometimes, even when it's hard in a business setting, to always, you have this overwhelming focus. You run the business, the numbers, that time frames. I have to tell myself a lot we're business for people, and you come back and you celebrate those small things. And I think, as far as we go, if we celebrate with each other those small things, then automatically it's a trickle down. Whereas everyone in the restaurant's going to be celebratory all the time when you see your guests.
I love that, but it is hard, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a self thing to regiment yourself when reminding yourself, like you've got to push this firm-wide culturally or organization-wide culturally, so that, because it's very easy, we're all humans, you, me, everybody who's operating a business, to get caught up in the day-to-day, but not to realize. You think like, oh, I have this huge, we have something going on. It's a disaster right now with our Google reviews, for example. It's countrywide. Y'all may be dealing with it too. That Google's got this glitch. Our reviews have disappeared. Like it's the most frustrating and insanely thing. And you get caught up in like a fire like that, and you forget the importance of like, hey, that person over in the reception area did this incredible thing, and like I need to make sure that I give 5 minutes to messaging everybody about it, because that is going to like reverberate culturally for the organization.
That's it. You got it.
Well, I want to shift gears here a little bit to Reginelli's food. So I'm going to hit you with some quick questions because I'm a big fan. Great, what a great family restaurant. Love Reginelli's food. The quality's always there, and I would say, just to pat you on the back a bit, like the service, the execution of the food is generally consistent, which is super hard, right?
Yes,
in the business that y'all do. Y'all in one of the hardest businesses, challenges with cost of goods and multiple locations. But first, favorite pizza on the menu?
My favorite pizza on the menu right now is the Bastacosi. So
what's on it? Give us a little.
So basically, we've had this problem for a long time that we didn't have a meat lover's pizza, which is pretty insane for a pizzeria, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's asking for it, and we're always.
Are y'all the biggest pizzeria in New Orleans?
I would say at this point we have probably the biggest reach and units. Italian pie.
Or most locations.
Yeah, most locations for sure.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
very
Bizarre. I mean, from like the 1980s, like meat lovers, you got this. And so we, for a long time, we're trying to do this, and we end up for years making this system where if you come in and you want to meat lovers, we do this crazy subtraction and addition. We're like, all right, we're going to start with the Tony's plate. We're going to take off the green peppers. We're going to put on sausage. We're going to take off the capers. We're going to put on capicola. And by the end, the person's like, okay, so is there meat on the pizza and no vegetables? And you're like, I got you. And that was just crazy.
Right.
So recently, after X amount of years, we decided to make this bastacosi. So we got 4 of our ingredients. We got capicola, pepperoni, meatballs, and Italian sausage. Pretty solid. Now, that's also pretty heavy. That's a lot of meat. So we went through, it was like one of those things where we were testing this out for like 4 months, and I gained like 15 pounds. You could tell people were like, all right, guys, we're going to try it with this meat. And everyone's like, I don't know. I don't want to do this anymore. But we finally got the portionings down, and bastacosi means that's enough in Italian.
Okay.
And so that was like sort of the thing. We got to the end and we're like, that's enough. Like everyone was like, well, it's enough. And it's like, bastacosi, man, that's enough. So yeah, it was. So that's my favorite right now. And sure enough, we put it on the menu. And now, it's just one of the most popular pizzas. Like everyone's doing it.
I'm betting it's like
yeah.
one of the most popular items, and like most things in life, you're like, why didn't I do this sooner?
I know. Well, Miles brought it up early talking about chicken wings. Again, one of those things, it's tried and true. Like all the science is there. But we were like, no. No. But the reason we were saying no, Daryl has, like you said, consistent and high expectations for quality of ingredients. And the reason why it was always no, because he never found something that he felt proud of representing, and us putting out.
With your brand.
Yeah.
And
so then we found this awesome chicken wing that worked. We cook everything in the ovens, which is challenging.
Yeah.
That made it awesome. And we were talking about the Nashville hot sauce.
Their Nashville hot wings are incredible.
I don't think I've ever had them.
And I didn't until pretty recently, because it's a pizza place. Their Uptowner sandwich also. One of the best sandwiches.
I like the spinach and artichoke dip a lot.
Also solid.
Yeah, solid. I mean, there's a lot, y'all. Yeah.
But their Nashville wings, incredible.
Huh. That's on my next item. So that brings us right into my next question for you about the Reginelli's menu. Adam, what is your favorite non-pizza menu item on the menu?
So that's really good. I'm going to say non-pizza, the thing that I go to the most is our Caesar salad. I know that sounds crazy, but if you've never had our Caesar dressing, it is very addictive and unique. It's a creamy Caesar. It's heavy with garlic, so it's going to have a little bit of that bite to it. But I would say I probably eat that Caesar up to 4 to 5 times a week. It's solid. Croutons are made from our focaccia bread. So, and
I think, do y'all serve the focaccia with the spinach and artichoke?
Yes.
It's great.
There you go.
Oh,
See? So, I mean,
we're going to the Caesar, the wings. I know what we're doing for lunch.
I know. The Caesar's awesome. And maybe it's like I'm also, because I'm eating, so many bastacosis all the time. I'm like, I got to eat something lighter, with my heart. But yeah, I would say the Caesar salad's awesome.
My best friend's a cardiologist. He'd be happy that you mixed up the
I got some romaine in there. He's probably like, what's the recipe on that? How many eggs you use?
They tell that Reginelli's guy he's going to have cardiac arrest if he doesn't stop eating the
how old is he? Yeah.
Okay, now a little fun off the menu. Your favorite New Orleans restaurant can't be. We're gonna just accept that Reginelli's is your favorite. Okay.
Yeah.
What's
absolutely.
your next not Reginelli's favorite New Orleans restaurant?
I'm gonna be a little selfish here and talk about our sister restaurant across the street at Reginelli's. 5961 Magazine Street, across technically a State Street address at 741 State Street is Picnic Provisions and Whiskey. So this, if you was recently voted by like New Orleans NOLA.com poll to be the best fried chicken. It's crawfish boil flavored fried chicken, which means all the spices from the crawfish boil. It's not boiled or anything like that.
It's on State Street?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like State and Magazine right on the corner, right across from Reginelli's. And it's just some very unique things are being done there with the recipes. We also have, I'm going to say we, because I'm also associated with them too, have this condiment that is, you take all the dregs from the bottom of the crystal vat, from Pepper's Crystal Factory.
Yeah.
You don't throw them away. We get them. And you have this awesome spice that you can sprinkle on that's just these, it's the dregs of the peppers. It's an awesome condiment. Condiment of the year. It won Condiment of the Year several years back. And if you go in there, I mean, this is one of those things like you could put it on everything. And with the fried chicken that is served with this miso mayo, it's like you dip the fried chicken into the mayo and then dip it into the pepper pulp.
Jeez, I mean, people won't know when they're listening to this.
At this
It's
point,
11:36. I'm relatively starving today, and like I'm now like thinking, do I stop at Reginelli's and get the Caesar salad and
I'm gonna
drive down?
I'm gonna send y'all something this week and just do it up. Yeah, I got
That sounds fantastic.
After I'm talking all this, like everyone's gonna be like, "It better deliver." I'm gonna have to.
I mean, I'm drooling and sweating. You got to send us something.
I mean, it's so yeah. So I would say that, and then also, I mean,
What's the whiskey? Like, do you have a good whiskey selection there?
Yeah,
too?
so they make a great old fashioned, and they try to also do an seasonal old fashioned. So we got a king cake old fashioned right now that's really good. We had a sweet potato old fashioned that they charred the lemon or charred the orange rind and got it smoky with the sweet potatoes bitters. It was cool, man.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Last. Okay. This is maybe a bit controversial, and I didn't know if you were going to even be willing to answer it. But as you mentioned, now we have like a vibrant pizza scene in New Orleans now. Probably not what was the case back when Reginelli's opened. What is your favorite non-Reginelli's New Orleans pizza? You can, because it's a legal podcast. You can take the Fifth Amendment if you would choose to, but come on. Like,
no, with pizza, I give credit where credit is due all the time because it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's hard to be consistent. A lot of times, it's just hard. So I would say Pizza Delicious. I got to give shouts out to Pizza Delicious.
Great pizza.
I've met their owners before. Whenever I go by, I feel like the service is nice. The consistency is great. They have a nice bite to their crust, which I appreciate because it's more like a traditional, like New York style. It's different than ours. Yeah.
Did you know them from Tulane? Mm-mm. Okay, because it's such a small world. Like Pizza Delicious, when I moved here, was just starting like in a window up in the Irony. And they were the cardiologist I just mentioned, who's one of my best friends, and we lived together at the time in Lakeview because he was in med school when I was in law school. He had a close friend back from Homa who also was in med school with him, who was buddies from Tulane with the guys starting up Pizza
This
Delicious.
is such a small town, I
right?
swear to God.
Right?
Like
so like he was around trying the Pizza Delicious when they were in a window.
Yeah.
And now he's trying to prevent you from having a cardiac arrest from eating all the meat lovers pizza at Reginelli. So it's like
he can try.
It all comes full circle.
not just the meat lovers pizzas, the fried chicken too, y'all. We got a problem.
Yeah, that's another great pizza. So
it is.
Okay. The next segment I want to run into with you, please, Adam, is called Overruled. This is a new segment brought to you by Super Witch Ice Cream. Have you heard of Super Witch Ice Cream?
I have not.
Okay, Super Witch Ice Cream is a local batch ice cream produced out in Harahan. It's produced by Briggs, who started the company, and you can only order it on Wednesday nights online. It's really good ice cream.
He came on the podcast.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. He lives on my street, and his ice cream is exceptional.
That's for real, yeah.
Shout out to Super Witch Ice Cream. All right, so we're going into this segment, Overruled. If you agree with any of the three following statements, you will sustain. Okay. If you object or disagree, you will overrule. Are you familiar with the rules now?
I am ready.
All right. First question. This is a big one. Pepperoni is more important than cheese on pizza. Overruled or sustained, and why?
I'm going to say overruled.
You think the cheese is more important?
I do. So we use the Cadillac, the best cheese you can get. It's grande mozzarella. It's just the king of cheeses. It performs amazing, and you pay for what you get, but it makes a difference. If we sat here right now, I could use my same pepperoni, Ezzo pepperoni, shout out. You would taste the difference to the point where you would probably want to continue eating the cheese pizza.
Yep.
I would say.
I agree. We do pizza reviews, and you can tell the better pizzas in New Orleans have higher quality ingredients. And you can just tell when it's imitation cheese or it's not quality cheese.
Absolutely.
Okay, number 2. Fountain Coke is better than canned Coke. Overruled or sustained?
Sustained.
Oh, couldn't agree more. All right, last. Sauce is more important than crust on the pizza.
Overruled.
Overruled. So you're going with the crust over the sauce.
Yeah. And
we're gonna have this is a hot one. Like I think a lot of people are gonna disagree with you on that.
They may, but there's a thing here. It's really, really hard to get a good crust. Consistent. Like you're working with humidity. You're working with proof times. You're working with all these factors that in Louisiana, gentlemen, is incredibly. You're talking summer. What's the humidity today? I don't know, 90. Or like this week, what's it earlier in the week? Okay, it's nothing. So like there is this variations, and you have to play this game, especially in the summer, to make sure that your crust and your dough is still alive and will bake the way you want it to. So I would say, crust.
Yeah, I actually learned that talking to another pizzeria owner in the city, and he also was from New York originally, and was talking about the challenges of making pizza down here and up in New York because of the humidity, which he directly said, just like you, affects the crust, which I had no idea, but it's crazy. We do have terrible humidity. Okay, thank you. I do want to ask you one question, though, now, because it came up in Overruled. Pepperoni. Are you also using Cadillac pepperoni? Where do you get the pepperoni from?
So it's Ezzo pepperoni. I think it's the Cadillac too. I think it's regarded in the industry as one of the best. Jonathan Ezzo has been making that pepperoni with his family, his recipe, for a while. And, just to show you that, pizza in many restaurants, hospitality, when we wanted to use Ezzo, Jonathan came down and spent like a week with Daryl.
Wow.
Like learning about everything, the history, and why it was important. And, really in pizza, those type of relationships, I mean, it's anything. You have strong relationships, but there's an intimacy because ingredients mean so much that, you want to be proud to see who you're partnered with. We're always proud to have the best ingredients. And I can say that confidently, know, and we will always continue that tradition. And because it's wonderful for everyone involved.
I think that's a really important lesson, though, in managing a business. And I actually have been thinking about that a lot over the last year. In my industry, in the legal industry, there is this proclivity to be very hard on the vendors because you're like, I'll just like change them, I'll fire them, I'll hire another vendor because we have so many vendors in the legal space. And I have started to really, not that I ever was that way with them, but like I've really been thinking the last year or two about how important it is to build the relationships, not just internally and with our clients, but also with our vendors.
Absolutely.
And to have those, can you talk a little bit about that, how that ends up making the product and the quality better for Reginelli's customers?
Yeah, so your vendor relationships, are, like you said, so important because especially in New Orleans, we have a lot of weather. It's hurricane season.
Yep.
You get your deliveries if you have a good relationship with your vendors.
Right.
They'll make sure they open up. They'll work their hardest to make sure that they can get there on time. Coming up with Mardi Gras, we're going to need deliveries 3, 4 a.m. some days at different locations. And our vendors could be, no, we can't do that, or we're not going to modify. Our dough, for example, comes fresh. We're trying to get it in fresh almost daily.
Right.
And so that means on Toth Sunday to get uptown, this guy's going to be coming in hot.
Yeah.
And he'll do that for us because we have a great relationship for the last, 2 decades. But when it comes to crisis or when it comes to opportunity, we opened up the day after the snow. Like I trudged down to work. We had some dudes living across the street, like opened up the shop, swept it all out. And then it came down to, do you have the vendors who are going to be like, yes, I will risk the snow to even just, to get in there, or the next day, since you're going to use up all your stock, to get in there and to help you out. So they give you the ability to strike when the iron's hot and to make more out of opportunity. But like you said, you have to develop those. And that means if you're always looking for the cheapest price, at some point that comes at a cost.
Yeah.
Instead, we'd rather say like, okay, let's work together. And I understand I'm paying for a premium service. How can we get the best out of it? To make sure that it works.
Yeah.
And
it is funny, though, don't you think? I mean, I see so many different businesses, whether it's law, the restaurant business, whatever it is, and they have just a very acerbic attitude towards vendors and the way they treat them. And I see it as such like a stupid, closed-minded perspective on how to build a growing business, and all driven, in my opinion, by ego. Because, like, if you put the ego aside and realize, like, ultimately what Reginelli's is trying to do, just like Scott Vigner's, is give the best product and result to the client or the customer. Like, you have to do all these other complicated things, build the culture, have these relationships with your vendors, treat the customers with honesty and be honest with them and make things right. Like, yeah, it's all complicated and hard, but if it was easy, everybody would do it, and it's not easy, and that's why y'all have 9 locations. You're doing it the right way. Isn't that fair?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Anywho, okay, I'm off my tangent about that. I just thought I knew just talking to you how great that you had a relationship with some of these vendors and giving them shout outs. So that was a point I wanted to harp on. Okay, I was hoping you would give our listeners, obviously the restaurant business is very hard. You have a lot of challenges that other industries don't have. I feel like owning a restaurant is glamorized, and it shouldn't be, because
absolutely it's glamorized, right?
Right, it's so hard. The cost of goods sold, the product can go bad, all those dilemmas y'all face. Could you share, if you could, 2 or 3 lessons over the years? Now, your 22-year journey with Reginelli is culminated. Now you're the chief operating officer. 2 or 3 lessons you'd like to share that you've learned that have been super impactful in helping your personal development and the company's growth.
So I want to start with one, again, I was blessed to have Daryl Reginelli as sort of a mentor along the way. And one thing, as you can tell, I like to talk. I like to get animated. I like to use my hands.
I don't shut up. Miles is making. I see him out the corner of my eye making the Emma lawyer.
We could go for like 3 more hours. Let's get into the real good stuff. But I like to do that. But one thing that I learned from Daryl was to listen.
Yeah.
And when he decides to talk, it's because he has something to say that is relevant to the situation, and it's not just going to be a lot of
exposition.
Yes, perfect way to put it. And I think that's one of the reasons people respect him so much is also, while when he speaks, intelligently and has something important to say, but also he makes people feel important by not talking over them and allowing them to feel like their opinions are validated. And over the years, especially once I took the spot as the COO, I noticed that I was actively changing this because I saw that it was a successful strategy, even subconsciously. And so now I really, in a lot of situations, whether we're meeting with our commanders partners or for vendors or anything like that, I try to sit and listen because I know that that's important, like I said, for the duality. The other thing I learned, which is it's a little different, but compliance does not equal vision. And this is super important for growth for anyone in any business, especially someone who's dealing with a passion project or, your name's associated with it.
Yeah.
It's personal, because you're going to have a lot of people that want to be attracted to success, that think that they are going to give it and understand what you're trying to do. And they're going to tell you all the time, yes, 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 yes. Compliance is fine. But what I've found is all those yeses and all the got it does not equal that it doesn't equal that they understand your vision of what you're trying to do.
Right.
Compliance is great for consistency and for making sure that rules and laws are followed. But vision and understanding the vision of what Reginelli's is absolutely critical, and understanding that no matter how much someone is telling you yes, do they understand your vision? Because that's the most important thing. And I think about vision a lot with us, because it's the driving force. What lets you have 9 locations, what helps you grow, what lets you sustain that great consistency is vision all the time, and having all the ships facing in the same direction, and to have the synergy of everyone's been around for decades.
Yep.
The owners are still involved.
Yep.
That means that the vision is fairly clear, which is good.
And that they live by the values. They're not just sitting on the website, right?
Yeah.
There's something going within the organization, which means there's action behind the values, as opposed to it just being words. Anybody can say they have core values and throw them on a freaking website, let's be honest. But living it, and also acknowledging that we haven't lived up to them lately. We're gonna correct and improve on this is also right, like living up to them. Something you said in there really hit me, because I've been thinking about it a lot, is now, like, I've been at this for 13 and a half years practicing law. Running my own firm for a little bit over 9.5. A lot of the things now, because I'm so embedded in operations and understanding what's happening, that when people come to me, like I can probably solve it really quickly. But I've been like trying to mentally tell myself, shut the F up. Listen, like let them solve it. Even though like I know I could solve it quicker, like, and that's the human impulse, is just to get the solution quicker. Like it also, besides being a good leadership tool, I think by allowing people to see that you care about their perspective, it also is evidencing to them, I think, that you care about their personal and professional development by letting them learn how to fix a problem on their own.
Yeah.
And that really clicked for me 3 or 4 months ago reading a book, and I was like, I need to shut up more and let other people learn. But it's a hard thing because you just know you can fix it. And so that kind of makes me think, without even knowing Daryl, that he really knows what he's doing. And you recognize it. And now he's done what? He's given you the ability to grow professionally and personally by seeing that from him and do it yourself. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's wonderful.
Okay, what is one of your favorite memories of Reginelli's? Do you have one?
Yeah, so
it can be good, it can be raunchy, it can be whatever.
There's some ludicrous ones.
This is not a child show. So. I'm not cleaning it up like Kendrick Lamar at the halftime show.
So obviously in the restaurant industry, you get the crazy stuff happens all the time. Like you know, like anything you could think of happens. But one of these moments and that what always sticks out to me was when someone tried to burn us down. And so this was when we were at 741 State Street, across the street, our little Reginelli's.
What year was this?
Oh, this might be 05 or 06 when this happens.
After Katrina.
Yeah.
Flood, then a potential fire. All right,
so, it's an old building, and it has people living upstairs. It has the ballet studio next door. It's just like, it's crazy. And we're sitting there, and everyone goes outside and smokes cigarettes. It's a restaurant industry, you smoke cigarettes sometimes. Sure. And you have drivers coming in the back door. So everything's just running as usual. And then I remember our driver, Baxter Stewart, comes in, and he goes, "The building's on fire!" And everyone's just like, "What?" Like thinking, like, there's no way, like, it's an overreaction. So, there's a little bit of hustle, but not as much as you think. You saunter out, and we look over, and there's our back door, and then there's a door that goes to the upstairs apartment, and it's closed. And it's like one of those things you learn when you're 5. You're like, the door is hot. You know what I mean? Like, look for smoke, and then it's like, okay, this thing's definitely on fire. And then it was like, yo, dude, this is on fire. And it was like, boom, we kicked it in. Backdraft, baby. And it's like, boom, and it just, the oxygen hits it, and it just boom, and it was like, dude, this is a fire. So we run back, and then if you take it from the perspective of the security cameras, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's like this Keystone cop / thing where it's like, you see me, and I'm like, and everyone looks around, and then we had this moment where everyone's looking like, what do we do? And it's like, then we drag out like a garden hose, like, and then it gets serious. Everyone's like, go on the thing, like, you there, One guy's up front, he's like, all right, go, it's like,
with the garden hose.
Yeah, the garden hose. But we got to hit
Which,
it.
depending upon the operations of the sewage and water board at any given time,
well, that's
may not have worked.
You may not have known that. I was like, get it out, man. So we do it, and then like, we spray it all down, and we put it out. By this point, the fire departments showed up. And then everyone's like coming down from this, and we're thinking like, oh man, like, how did this happen? So let's go back with the camera footage a little bit more. And we go back further, and what we see is one of our dishwashers, like a younger kid, just having this moment where it's like, don't play with matches. And you can see him like, you see this on, like, you see these memes sometimes where there's a guy in like the styrofoam factory, he's like, look to see what happened. It's like, boom! It's the same thing. He has a bunch of rags, and he's just like, and then when it lights on fire, he just goes and drops it into the stairwell and then shuts the door and goes back inside. So I'm looking at this, and I look back, and I see him there, and I was like, I forget his name, and I was like, hey, can you come over here real fast? I just want to ask you a couple questions. And he denied it. He was like, no, that wasn't me. I was like, I don't know what we're doing right now, man. But like, like
this is called cameras.
Yeah, this is real.
They take pictures and video of you.
And so I go, I'm like, I have to call the police. He's like, I understand. Goes back. Just washing dishes. Cop comes in, showing the video. He's like, well, do you have this guy's address? We're going to go find him. I was like, no need. He's like, you got to be shitting me. I was like, dude, he just, and I remember, going back there, and like, there was this look of betrayal that haunts me as the dishwasher, just like, just walking away at the cops. And I was like, well, dude, I you didn't say anything. He was just like,
like and betrayed me.
Yeah, like you
dude, you lit the building on fire.
I showed you. I said, look, I gotta call the
starter.
cops. You could have just said I was messing around, but I remember that because it was so shocking and so serious, and also so comical. From like this, like everyone's like, well, and seeing it on the video was wild. But that was a pretty crazy one.
I'm glad the building didn't burn down.
I have another one it's a little funnier, and I'll go briefly if you want to hear it.
Yeah, go.
So we're close enough to the to Ottoman Park. There's a lot of celebrities that stay in B&Bs down there, and do other thing. So
a lot of them have houses down there. It's crazy.
I know, it's pretty cool. I was hoping during the Super Bowl, I was like, y'all be ready. Let me know. So sitting there. It's my wife's birthday. She's off doing her own thing. I had to work, so I'm like, already I'm in the doghouse. I'm screwed. So I'm sitting there. I'm working. It's a busy day. And then suddenly someone's like, dude, Rod Stewart's here. Big soft rock fan. You know what I mean? So I look over and I scope out. I'm like, holy shit, it's Rod Stewart. I get like texting Daryl. I'm like, yo, Rod Stewart's in the house. Like he might be like, okay, dude, what's going on here? But like, Rod Stewart's here. And I'm thinking, I can redeem myself from missing like the part of my wife's birthday by getting like, yo, Rod, can you just say like happy birthday, Joanna, real fast?
Cameo before Cameo existed.
Thank you. Right? I'm thinking I can win the day. I'm cool.
And free. You didn't have to pay for it.
So I'm gonna take care of his whole meal, everything like this. Getting ready, go out there to meet him. Boom, boom, boom. And I hear there's a problem in the dining room, and I hear someone getting loud. Then this is like for a manager, like you just seek problems. Right. Go over there, and I see this guy is like, oh man. This is crazy. These people think they can do anything. I mean, dogs in the restaurant? I'm like, what are you talking about? And I look over there, and out of Rod Stewart's girlfriend, her purse, like, it's like a little goat. This dog just like, pew, pops up and like snatches like some pizza off the table and then disappears again. I was like, oh, shit.
Smart dog.
Yeah. So go over there, and, clearly everyone knows there's a scene, and he's being loud, and he's pointing at Rod Stewart, so we know there's an interaction. So I go from the hero of my wife to I go up and I was like, I'm a huge fan of you. And he goes, get on with it, mate. I was like, I'm just dying inside. And he's like, what? And I was like, I can't have the dog in here. I was like, but I'm going to set up a table outside for you. It's going to be awesome. Your next round of Coors Light, he drinks Coors Light, is on me. And he was like, nah, mate, don't want to be here anymore. He's like, that bloke sort of ruined my meal. And I was like, I am so sorry. We just can't have the dog. And I was like, he's like a robot. I am so sorry. We just can't have the dog in here. And so then he leaves. Daryl drives up like 5 minutes later, like, yo, where's the man?
Where's Rod
And I was
Stewart?
like, well, gone, because I kicked him out of the restaurant.
He called me a bloke, and he's gone.
Yeah. So I feel like shit, didn't get that. And then, like, when I walk back inside, the dude that made the scene's like, oh, buddy, thank you so much. That was crazy. I love your place. Yeah, I fly in from Brooklyn once a year, and I always come here one night. And I was like, I'm so thankful. Cool. And I was just like,
it'd be one thing if it was like the regular around the corner who came every week.
Yeah, it was just one of those things. I was like, I'm so glad everyone's so happy except for me. Like, what are you gonna
That's
do?
a great story. I think Rod Stewart kind of could have played it a little bit cooler.
I think so too, but
I'm kind of disappointed in him.
I would have thought he would have been cooler about that. Yeah, but
get on with it. Okay, Rod, get over yourself. Okay, we're gonna talk about the future real quick. I can't believe I just told Rod Stewart to get over himself.
He is an active listener to this
Who
podcast.
do I think I am? I don't know. Some shit just flies out of my mouth. All right, so 2 questions for the future to wrap up. This has been a great discussion, Adam. What is the first? I know you're a big Saints fan. Kellen Moore just hit the news. Kellen Moore hired as a new coach. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on the future of the Saints and Kellen Moore?
I'm excited whenever there's a leadership change. I think overall that drives the performance of the teams. And I think that one of the things, we can see from Sean Payton and the leadership he had at the time, if you get, let's see what this new leader is going to be and see what he can do with the team and some of the tools we have. A lot of the times, like we know, the right leader, you don't need all stars. What you need is people who see the vision, right? And if they have that and the coach can bring the vision, then we can start rebuilding and getting to where we need to be successfully again. That's right. Yeah.
Just won a Super Bowl. I mean, I think it's a good.
It's exciting. Like I want to go to a game to see what he has to do. Right? Yeah.
100%. And I'm excited about it too. I also just think one of the things I kind of will hit Mickey Loomis about is this idea of like, the results aren't what we want, but that doesn't mean we're doing anything wrong. Like, look, ultimately, results aren't always indicative of what's happening in the organization, like any company, any team, etc. But ultimately, the results have to get there. Mm-hmm. And so, like, when you have, we got to give them some time. The Saints have a bunch of cap space issues, but I think ultimately it is exciting, and I share your excitement. But I'm a diehard, so I'm going to say that no matter what.
Well, I mean, you sort of have to, like, being here in New Orleans. It's like, this is what you do, or just don't.
I also just like when I'm like, Drew Brees is a big fan of his, so I'm like, you know what? I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, so let's see what happens. Okay, last and more importantly for our purposes of discussion today, not generally, than the future of the Saints is tell us a little bit about the future of Reginelli's and what we should expect from Reginelli's moving forward.
So, as far as your neighborhood Reginelli's that you go to right now, our goal in 2025 and beyond is going to be more frequent with our limited menus. We've found that we have some really great items that people wait for all year round. It's a watermelon salad in the summer. People go bonkers for that. It's the brie calzone in the winter.
That's good.
I know, and it's one of those things. And so we're trying to fill up sort of the other seasonal slots with not just these seasonal favorites, but some really new innovative things.
Nice.
So that's a major focus. And as far as expansion of the brand to new neighborhoods, Slidell's always been attractive. We're trying. It's all about location. Right. But the North Shore has a lot going on. Madisonville, is booming.
Yeah.
And then the Gulf Coast in general. Pre-pandemic, we were looking at the Bay St. Louis area. But now you have people commuting into the city from those areas.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess it's the rest of the, like East Coast people do live outside of New York. Yeah, my 2-hour commute's no problem. I listen to a book every day. But, that 45 to an hour to live there in that nice community, people don't bat an eye at that.
Yeah.
So it could be there where we sort of have some roots, Mississippi would be cool. We have a lot of people that are fans of New Orleans, fans of Reginelli's. We've talked about Lafayette a little bit, because it's a great city and a great town as well. So I would think you're going to see that in the next year or two as far as expansion, but really in-house. Like I said with the LTOs, after the pandemic, the service industry and hospitality just plummeted. I don't know if you experienced it. You go out to eat at a nice restaurant and you're like, well, I just spent like $300 because everything's more expensive now. And my service was like
spotty.
It was spotty, like you're asking someone like, well, what do you recommend? They're like, well, it's whatever you like. And you're like, what are we doing here? Like, we're just gonna go back and forth.
That's not our role in this
Yeah. It's like, you answered a question with a question, But so we've been focusing on this concept called show ready. And show ready means when you come into a Reginelli's, whether it's in the morning right at open, whether it's, for your lunch, whether it's in between those, those hours in restaurants, which they say between 2 and 4, it's like, it's really hard because everyone's trying to get out or tighten up. But when you come in, it feels the same, and it's that you are, someone important, and we're putting on a show for you. And that means that our employees are going to appear, correctly dressed, looking good, with a smile. It means attitude is going to be correct. Like, we're not talking about mood here. We're talking about an attitude that's meant there for service, to serve people, to celebrate, right? And then finally, that all of our systems that make us consistent are in place. So we've been talking with our managers about this, this show-ready concept for the last 6 months, just really making sure that their professional development understands how important it is that we're presenting a show.
Yeah.
And, Mardi Gras for us in the Super Bowl, I describe it as like this is the greatest show in New Orleans. And Reginelli's always wants to be there, especially since we're so embedded in the communities. We want to be part of that show, and we intend to be ready, to present and to have a great time with everyone.
I love it. I love that you hit on like looking at the limited menus and what people like, because it shows like a healthy organization that puts the customer first as opposed to what their egos say should be on the menu, right? And is driven by the customer demand and what the market asks for. And also, I just think for fun, like now that y'all have that as far as expansion goes. Like, you have that foothold on the North Shore. There's a lot of opportunity there for y'all. Plus, all the New Orleanians and people who are going to Bay St. Louis.
Oh my gosh!
You're starting to see a lot of New Orleans restaurants, bars, retail brands starting to locate there too to serve the customers who know them already, have relationships here back into those markets as well.
It's cool. If you go to Bay St. Louis, it's like, I think there's a Creole Creamery. It's like, oh, my on Pertain. It's like, it's right around the corner. So it's cool.
Well, it's been an incredible discussion, Adam. Thank you so much for being on the show. Before we go, I want you one last shout out. Can you give us a Reginelli's and the other restaurant shout out? I forgot it already. I have a terrible memory. And where we can find both Reginelli's and the other restaurant online and on social media.
Got you. So you can go to reginellis.com. We have an Insta, we have a Facebook group, Reginelli's Pizzeria. So, but reginellis.com, you can order online. You can place your order in advance. You could look at any of our menus. You could contact me even on there. You could get anything there, reginellis.com, and then Picnic Provisions and Whiskey. That's nolapicnic.com, and also you can get in touch with us. It has the menu. There's a lot of press there. It's cool. It's exciting stuff. But yeah, that's how you can reach us. And you wanted me to answer what other question?
That was it. That was it. We're going to link everything in the show notes. Like on the show, we really wanted to give both restaurants and companies a shout out. Also tell the Reginelli's fans to make sure we're going to have second annual, not first, because last year was the first time. And I have a close friend who gets really butthurt when people say something's the first annual. He's like, it's the first, and then it's the second annual. So second annual March Madness pizza bracket competition this year that we're putting on with Fox, which we had a heated competition last year with Reginelli's in Mid-City. It was crazy, the competition, but we're doing it again this year. That's coming up in March. So if you're a Reginelli's fan, be aware of it. We'll be pumping it out. Fox will be pumping it out. I'm sure Reginelli's will too, because it was like a really fun.
Crazy.
It was heated. I mean, we loved watching it. We're like, man,
people from the outside love watching it. Let me tell you, as the insider, it's just like you're sweating bullets. You're like, how are this many people voting?
But thank you so much. It's been an incredible conversation and discussion, Adam. Check out Reginelli's. What a great family restaurant, growing restaurant. Obviously evident from the ownership to the management, how they treat their values of the organization and treat the team members there, that they've had so many people there for so long, and the product is so consistently good as a restaurant in such a hard business. Once again, this has been the Overruled podcast, brought to you by the Scott Vignair Law Firm. This is David Vignair. To all of our listeners, thank you for being us again, and we will see you next time.
Scott Vignair, injury attorneys, we fight for the win.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.